Alright, so the Eagles shared some unexpected news that Bryce Huff is having surgery and could be headed to the IR. However, why is there a silver lining, and what does that mean for Jalyx Hunt being unleashed in Fangio's defense? Also, Howie Roseman is leaving no stone unturned as the Birds brought back a run stopper and Britain Covey is back. Although Devonta Smith is dealing with a hamstring injury and it could be worse than we thought. So let's talk about all the injury updates as well as why the offense is on the verge of something special. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? Alright, let's not waste any time and just get right into it. The Eagles are about to be without Bryce Huff for a little while, after reports confirmed that the 26-year-old will undergo a procedure on his wrist so that he can hopefully be available for a late postseason run. And before I get into anything else, let me just say prayers up for Bryce Huff, hopefully a speedy and fast recovery. Now I know I've already seen all the comments saying Agent Zero has been trashed, this isn't a big loss, and that no one should freak out. To which I agree. There's no reason to think the sky is falling.
How bad is it? Is it bad?
If we're being honest, the Eagles have just about been playing without him. For example, take a look at the snap counts for Huff over the last 3 weeks, and he's barely seen the field, registering a season-low 6 snaps against the Jaguars, 12 snaps against Dallas in Week 10, and then 14 snaps against Washington last week. Also, FYI, he's accounted for 2 tackles, 1 sack, and 1 forced fumble over the last 3 games. Which on one hand, okay, no pun intended, but you could argue that's not too bad. I mean, at least it's better than earlier in the season when he hadn't gotten a single solo tackle until Week 4. But clearly we're not talking about this being a massive blow to the defense either. As judging by PFF's pass rushing productivity grade, number 0 ranks 80th out of 122 qualified edge rushers this season. And not that we all needed a reminder, but this is a dude Philly gave a $51 million contract to back in March. So yeah, sadly not living up to the expectations so far. However, here's the promising aspect and why I say it's not a big blow. This defense is the number 1 defense in the NFL, and the Birds' pass rush also ranks 4th in terms of time to pressure for the D-lines this year. Again, that's all happening without significant contributions from your big-time pass rusher that you signed in free agency. Granted, that can be covered up when you've got a big-time contributor like Nolan Smith.
What a guy that's been able to, handle the ups and downs, not getting a lot of reps early on in his career because of the depth that we had at that position, to now really being a big-time contributor. Patience of everybody. Just, hey, it takes time. It takes time. And if you got the right people, like Nolan is, Nolan deeply cares about being good at football. Nolan loves football. Nolan is tough as we got. He's one of the toughest guys we got on this football team. He plays as hard as anybody in the National Football League. And so when you have those characteristics, and he's got great skill, right? When you have those characteristics as a person, you'll continue, if God willing, you'll reach your ceiling. And I think he just keeps getting better because of who he is as the skill that he has and who he is as a person.
Nolan's been doing well. Obviously, speed and athleticism is his forte, and which is good. We need that. And he's been able to offset his, kind of being small for an edge position to really work on being physical enough to play the run, playing his blocks. And I think him and Wash has done a good job with him to get to where he's competitively good enough to play the run.
That's the thing. He's been doing it all. I mean, not only is Nolan getting stops in the run game, but he's getting sacks and creating pressure. Reminder, the 23-year-old has the 15th highest pass rush win rate in the entire league, which is just insane improvement when you consider he was 129th last season. Now sure, it's not just Nolan because Josh Sweat has been really good and BG's been really consistent. Plus I talked about Jalen Carter in the last video, but he's an absolute game wrecker every time he steps on the field. Yet this is the perfect scenario for Jalyx Hunt, who Sirianni and Fangio have expressed a lot of belief in and suggest the Rook could see a much bigger role. Heck, if you think back to the game against Dallas, Hunt played the 2nd most snaps at edge and at least made a couple plays. Seriously, this could be a good thing. I mean, you think about last season when Nolan Smith was not getting snaps, we're all screaming, please put him out there. Howie Roseman finally, after the season, goes back and says, yeah, we should have played Nolan a little bit more snaps. Same thing for Jalyx Hunt. Bryce Huff goes out, Jalyx Hunt gets more reps, and we all pay and at least have a lot better dividends for it. Of course, as I say that, Jalyx Hunt was actually on the side field and a non-participant for the Eagles at practice. But more of that in a second. First, let's talk about the sponsor of today's video, Rocket Money. I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably not the best when it comes to budgeting and saving money, but of course you guys know what happened. The Kelly Green merch started coming out and I couldn't help it. I had to absolutely buy it. But now I've really started thinking about saving and finances, especially because after all, not everyone can be Howie Roseman when it comes to balancing a budget. Which is why I turned to Rocket Money. Because Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you cancel your subscriptions, lower bills, and really just manage your money better. Now, I've said this before, but my personal favorite is the canceling subscriptions part. I don't know if you're like me, but I'll go on and see a show I like and be like, sure, free trial, why not? And then sadly, I forget about it or just even lose track. But thankfully, Rocket Money safely and securely identifies recurring charges and cancels unwanted subscriptions for you. You can even cancel within the app within just a couple taps. No need to worry about customer service calls or that incredibly hard to find cancellation link. Rocket Money saves members up to $740 a year with over 500 million in canceled subscriptions. Seriously, they're literally saving you time and money. So with the holidays right around the corner, there's not a better time to take control of your finances, and you can do that by going to rocketmoney.com/Philly special or just click the link in the description to get started for free. Anyway, like I said, Jalyx Hunt was not practicing today as he got in some stretching on a side field. And by the way, Milton Williams was also on a side field as he's dealing with a foot injury. But don't worry, Andrew DeCecco said the injury has something to do with his heel, and Milt told Johnny Mack that he'll see everybody on Sunday, so sounds like he'll be good to go. And then the bigger news was that Devonta Smith was also not practicing, with a couple reporters pointing out Smitty had been limping around after the Commanders game, and John McMullen sharing that the Slim Reaper's actually been dealing with a hamstring injury the last few weeks, with the Eagles trying to manage the symptoms throughout the week. Which who knows? Then of course there's speculation of saying, well, possibly that's why Jalen and Smitty have a little bit of a disconnect, because shout out to Fran Duffy, but he even couldn't completely put his finger on what the exact issue has been with Devonta's lack of production. Still though, probably not all injury related.
You see him here in the slot. The Eagles are running some orbit motion here with Jahan Dotson, a playoff of the first play of the game where they threw this bubble screen to Dotson. It looks like Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown are going to block on the perimeter, but both are actually releasing out into the second level. It's a switch route concept from those guys. A.J. Brown's running to the post. Devonta Smith's going to run down the sideline on basically a wheel route. Washington's all over this. They stay back in their zone coverage, and they eat this route up. Jalen Hurts has nowhere to go with the football. So that was dialed up for Devonta Smith. Defense wins, takes that away. Go to a little bit later. It's third down, and you see that Devonta Smith is lined up in the slot, bottom of the screen in a 3-by-1 bunch shed. He comes in motion just before the snap. This is basically going to be a rub route, a pick play designed specifically for Devonta Smith against man-to-man coverage, perfectly executed there by the Eagles receivers. Jalen Hurts steps up into a clean pocket and steps right into a sack. I would say this was probably Hurts' worst rep of the night. A missed opportunity there on a play that was designed to go to Devonta Smith. But on the very next offensive play, first play of the next possession, Devonta pays him back because he's going to run this deep out route. Jalen Hurts rolling to his right. He puts this right on Devonta's hands along the sideline. Ball falls incomplete. It falls right out of Devonta's hands for a drop. And then a little bit later, they get into the low red zone and they run their mesh concept, a play that they've had a lot of success with this year. And instead of A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, instead of A.J. kind of setting that pick play for the defender, A.J. and Devonta run into each other. It's the first time we've seen this from the Eagles this year where you have that kind of miscommunication. Jalen Hurts has nowhere to go with the football. It ends up being an incomplete pass. But you have 4 different plays that fail for 4 different reasons, all of them designed to go to Devonta Smith. He still had a couple catches on the night, but that's why those numbers weren't there. The past couple of weeks, the ball just hasn't found Devonta for those big plays.
I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? Sure, yes, it's not ever a great sign to see a star player out, but given Devonta Smith and what we know about him, he's absolutely going to play if he can. I mean, if we're sitting here Friday and all of a sudden it's like, well, he still has not played again, then maybe a little bit of concern. Although I guess the counter argument to that could be, do you rest him this week so that he's available for the Baltimore one? But again, come on, we know Smitty, and if he's anywhere close to being able to go, then he's going to play. Plus, just take a look at the injury report. You have Jalen Hurts there with an ankle who was limited, as well as Nakobe Dean, who's dealing with a groin who is limited. Yet despite some people that want to freak out and say it's a big concern, QB1 confirmed that it's not only him, but also several other players that are getting scheduled rest.
It's just a program we have for the mini-bye, so I'm fine.
What do you feel like you're getting out of that? Do you feel stronger? Do you feel like it's helping?
Yeah, that's the goal, always. And really, throughout the course of a year, just really making sure you're doing the things you need to do to stay on top of stuff. And that's kind of what we're doing. A lot of other players are doing it as well. So just taking it a day at a time, like everything.
So I assume the mini-bye came at a good time then to kind of get right a little bit. It's a long season.
Yeah, I say so. And it's kind of crazy how it's played out because we've had, this early bye week that we've had, this time here. So I think, even when we talk about just our game in general, assessing things and really taking the bye week to kind of go through the same process and, just see how we can become more efficient, how we can clean up the little things, just having those conversations and trying to build.
One guy that we can officially say is back is Britain Covey, as the wideout was seen back on the practice field getting in some work and returning punts. Also, for those wondering, the Eagles officially opened his 21-day practice window, but technically still need to make room for him to add him to the roster. Granted, the whole news of the Bryce Huff situation is kind of the perfect move and replace scenario for Britain Covey, so that's kind of what I'd expect we'd see. Yet the biggest factor for me personally is that maybe we can get Cooper DeJean away from returning punts now. I mean, look, Coop is good at it. No one's saying he's not. It's just the benefits of him at the slot far outweigh the risk of him going down to an injury in the kicking game. Of course, that wasn't the only roster moves made by the Birds, as they also brought back defensive tackle Siaki Ika to the practice squad while releasing wide receiver Kyle Phillips. And just a quick refresher for those of you that are not up to date on Ika. He's a former third-round pick by the Cleveland Browns in the 2023 draft, who ended up playing a grand total of 100 snaps, yet not really doing anything with those reps, leading to some eventual stints on some practice squads before eventually being let go. And then, of course, Ika was signed recently to Philly's practice squad and then released and now being brought back again.
Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap.
Look, I've talked about him recently in terms of run stopper and depth addition there, but I actually like this signing because in the right system, I believe he can be a serviceable backup. Plus, I think it's fair to say that Howie Roseman has the hot hand when it comes to aligning the roster and specifically on the defensive side. Like here you have 8 of the 11 starters on defense as being guys drafted or signed immediately following the draft by the Birds GM. But the best part is that 7 of those dudes are 25 years old or younger. So yeah, that's why we talk about this roster being the youngest in the NFL and only getting better, which is also why Bill Belichick recently called Philly one of the toughest and strongest teams in the NFL. Of course, while I agree with that, everyone realizes the contributions that the older vets add to, and maybe none more so than Zack Baun.
I think that's a home run for the organization. Howie, and the coaching staff and Zack Baun himself. And so you get really excited about those. Just like, we don't score touchdowns anymore as coaches, right? We help them score touchdowns. We don't get sacks anymore. We help them get sacks. And so that's a great feeling when it's just a team win and a player like Zack Baun succeeding. But let's make no mistake about it, all the credit and most of the credit goes to Zack Baun and the player that he is, the toughness that he has. And man, I'm so glad he's on this football team.
Without a doubt. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to get used to the fact of saying that Philly has 2 incredible linebackers, because officially Philly now has the second best graded linebacker in the league in Zack Baun, who is also the second best in coverage in the NFL. And I'll give all the praise in the world to Howie for some of the moves he's made, but remember, not even he had Baun pegged for this type of role.
When I evaluate players, there's no checkbox, things you check off. You just watch the tape, watch the movement patterns, watch the player play. And, Howie brought him up to me first, but he had a vision for him as a backup outside linebacker, special teams demon. And after I watched it, I said, no, I think he's an inside linebacker. And luckily, it hit.
That's awesome. But by the way, shout out to Joe Casper, because ever since the team had the fellas tackle the safeties coach instead of the donut, their missed tackle rate has decreased by almost 70%.
If you know Vic Fangio, he's not one to give too many compliments, but credit to everyone on this defense. Going into the bye, we had things to look at, things to take care of, and everyone's been playing well since. It starts up front. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, the edges have been on top of everything. We're getting sacks. We're forcing pressures. The linebackers, myself and Nakobe, the communication's been really good, flying around making plays. And then the back end, also the communication's been great. And having Coop in there and Reed and Quinyon on the outside, Slay on the outside. We just got so many weapons, and we're playing really well right now.
Again, it's crazy, but I don't really have any main concerns for the defense. And no, don't twist my words, the offense has been good, just not quite up to the level of the defense. However, it's one that Johnny Page feels is on the verge of being special. Now sure, when it comes to the running game, it's kind of already there, since Philly's 244 rushing attempts in a 6-game span are the most in the NFL since 2021, which for those counting was actually done the last time by the Eagles then. Granted, the Birds lead the NFL during that stretch with almost 1,200 yards and 13 touchdowns while also registering a 4.9 yards per carry average. And by the way, just for reference, the Detroit Lions are second on that list, but they're still 50 carries behind the Eagles, which, by the way, is also, in terms of a difference there, the same from second place to the 17th ranked team. But look, the strategy's been working. Still, even so, the game plan might have to shift a little bit moving forward.
Anytime your rushing attempts are that high, naturally, I think it'll be a focus for defenses. Obviously, we just have to play a good adjustment football. We got to understand the teams are going to give you different challenges, different presentations. We got to be able to adjust throughout the game. I thought Washington, credit to those guys. I thought they did an excellent job. They made some adjustments coming into our game on a short week, gave us some looks that we hadn't seen previously by them. And, I think our guys did a really, really good job of, as the game went, just hang in there, hang with it, make the adjustments we need to make, and then able to make some plays as the game progressed.
As we advance, people are going to try to stop the run, so we got to be able to adapt. We got to be able to adjust, and maybe more efficiently what we did last year. And so, I think those adjustments in between drives, especially at half, those are what build up for winner performances. So we got to continue to do that.
Now, the beauty is the Eagles have time. And for those asking how can the Birds beat Detroit if they end up playing them in the playoffs, they absolutely can. They just need to find a little bit more balance. I will say this, though. When it comes to play action, that's been nearly unstoppable. Which, kind of makes sense when you run it so much, especially when it's so effective. Anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts on all of this, and also, I need your help. I made a bet with former Giants offensive lineman Justin Pugh that Eagles fans are the best and could get his video over 100,000 views. So here's what I need you to do. Go down to the description and click the link and check out Justin's 24 hours as an Eagles fan, where just FYI, if his video gets over 100,000 views, he's going to wear an Eagles jersey to the game. And yeah, a lot of you already know this, and I just don't really ever want to lose a bet, but if we can get him to wear an Eagles jersey, the video get 100,000 views, I'm going to give away 2 playoff tickets to an Eagles game.
Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?
All right, as always, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you have not already, turn the notifications on, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Until then, this has been the Philly Special.